this one. We want to dimension a receiver with the Bose scheme operating at 10 GHz with bandwidth 100 MHz, data rate 1 gigabit per second, and EB over N0 equal to 10 dB. The receiver sensitivity is requested to be S equal to -70 dBm, while the maximum input power is related to S by the following expression: TP max equal X plus 60 plus 2 IIP3 rec, where IIP3 rec is the third order intercept point of the receiver referred to the input. As you know, some parameters of the blocks are not specified. For instance, an F, the low-res amplifier, TSSB. The problem is to compute such values by imposing the above requirements. More specifically, the first constraint is represented by the minimum input power as S. Write the budget equation representing the imposed SNR as function of S, B, R, EB over N0, and T-rec. Equivalent temperature of the receiver at the input. Then find a suitable combination of GLNA and F and TSSB which satisfy this equation. The value of the parameters should also satisfy the following conditions. So we have not only to satisfy the requirements, but also we need to satisfy some maximum value that each parameter refers to, in the sense that we want to limit the cost of the various blocks, and then this poses some constraints on the best performance that can be extracted from the blocks. So these are the constraints that have to be satisfied. These three: GLNA lower than 15 dB, and F larger than 1 dB, and TSSB larger than 150 degrees. Okay. So what we have to do here is to write the budget equation. Budget equation is a single equation. What we have to do is, by means of this equation, assign some parameters and obtain the others by means of the equation. We have to assign two parameters and obtain the last one, because we have three unknowns in this problem. There is another part of the problem which was optional in the test, in the exam, and concerns the constraint of Pmax, which determines the value of IIP3. Write the expression of IIP3 as function of the receiver blocks. Remember that linear blocks have infinite IIP3. Then, assuming Pmax equals 0 dBm, determine the value of IIP3 from the above expression and find P1 dB LNA and IIP3 that satisfy the written equation. In this case, we have two unknowns and one equation, so we have to assign one of the two and then obtain the other one by means of that equation. So let's see what way we can start with the solution. Obviously, we start with the first question, and what we have to do is to write the budget, to arrive writing the budget equation. We start with the fundamental requirement. Fundamental requirement is represented by the SNR of our receiving system, which is given by the received power S divided the total noise, which is given by this ratio. This can be expressed in dB, obviously, and we know that this ratio in dB can be also expressed as a function of EB over N0, EB over N0 in dB plus R divided P again in dB. Okay? This is the fundamental equation relating SNR to the quality parameters of the digital communication system, and then we get from the assigned parameters. The assigned parameters are here shown. We have EB over N0 equal 10 dB, and the ratio R divided B is equal 10, because 1 gigabit divided 0.1 gigahertz is 10, and then again 10 dB. So what we have here is 10 plus 10 equal 20 dB. Now we have to write the expression for the equivalent of our system. Note that here the only unknown is just the equivalent, because all the other parameters are known. So what we need is to express the equivalent as a function of the parameters of our blocks. Then we can write the equivalent scheme for the evaluation of the noise temperature, and what we get is here we have T0, then we have the attenuation of 1 dB AF, sorry, at 0. Then we have the low noise amplifier, then here we have TLNA, and then here we have GLNA. Then we have the mixer. Then we have the mixer, TSSB, and then we have LC, which represent the attenuation, the conversion loss of the mixer. It is called AC here. See? And finally we have the IF contribution due to the demodulator, receiver, and so on. The intermediate frequency. Okay, what we observe, however, here is that after the amplifier there is not a filter. So what we have to do is to double the LNA in order to take into account of the contribution from the image bank. Okay? So the equivalent temperature then will be given by T0 plus 2 LNA divided and multiplied A0 plus TSSB multiplied A0 divided GLNA plus TIF multiplied AC multiplied A0 divided GLNA. Okay, now A0 is given by 10 to the attenuation of the filter, which is 1 dB, 0.1, which is equal to, don't know what is it, oh yes, 1.26. Then we have T0, which is 293 times A0 minus 1, which is equal to 75.9 Kelvin degrees. Then this is unknown, and also GLNA is unknown. TF is known, TEF, IF is given by 300 degrees. And AC is given by 6 dB, which means 4 as a natural number. Okay? Well, at this point we can replace all we know here, and we get the following expression: 75.9 plus 2.52 TLNA plus 1.26 ESSB divided TLNA plus divided GLNA. Okay, this is our equation where we have the unknowns. But now we have to equate this to the equivalent temperature. And where we obtain the equivalent temperature? We obtain the equivalent temperature from this expression. Because here we have all the unknowns equal to 20, and then we can obtain the equivalent from this equation. We get, in fact, if we express this in dB, we have here S in dB minus KB in dB, in dBm, minus T equivalent, expressed again in dB, equal to 20. And then we get T equivalent in dB equal to 28.6. It's convenient to leave this in dB because we can, no, this is not in dB, so we can change this from dB to natural unit, and then we get the equivalent equal to 724.64 Kelvin degrees. Okay? So now we have T equivalent, we have to replace here T equivalent, and then we get equal to 724.64. Well, this is the budget equation. We have an equation, we have three unknowns, and we have to assign two parameters and get the other one from this equation. For instance, we can set the value of TSSB and the value of GLNA. For instance, we can assign TSSB equal to, it must be larger than 150. So we can assign, for instance, 250 Kelvin degrees. And we can assign GLNA equal 10 dB. It must be lower than 15 dB. So this is inside, well inside the requirement. What we get if we replace here these two values, okay? Let's remember that 10 dB means 10 as a natural unit, okay? What we get here is TLNA equal to 185.27, which means, as a noise figure, 2.13 dB. Okay, this is about double the minimum value requested. The minimum value is 1 dB. In other words, noise figure must be larger than 1 dB. Actually, here we have a lot of margin. So we can try to decrease some of this imposed parameter in order to have less margin, because in this way probably we can spend less money for realizing our system. For instance, instead of 10 dB, we can assign 7 dB. If you assign 7 dB, which means 3 dB less, if you move from 10 dB to 7 dB, means that we have reduced it by 3 dB, which in natural unit means that we have halved the value, okay? Then, with this
assignment, we get TLNA equal to 1.4. Sorry, I don't know what is TLNA. I get immediately an F of the amplifier, which is 1.4 dB. At this point, the noise figure is 50% larger than the minimum, 40% larger than the minimum requirement. This could be a good choice then. And in the end, the set of values that can be selected is TSSB 250, GNA 7 dB, and noise figure of the low noise amplifier 1.4 dB. Okay? There are some questions on this problem? Please.
I saw on the attenuation cable 6 decibel.
Sorry, speak loudly.
Attenuation cable, attenuation 6 decibels.
Attenuation is 1 dB of the filter, not of the cable.
Other
AC.
Sorry?
Mixer.
The mixer, you mean? 6 dB. Okay. It has been taken into account here. Okay?
Here for you wrote them for here.
I don't understand, sorry.
Left-hand side.
What do you mean? What you mean? Because I don't understand what you're saying. Sorry. Repeat it again.
Why you wrote for this attenuation?
Here, okay. The attenuation is a number larger than 1, okay? Here, the value is 6 dB. 6 dB is 3 dB plus 3 dB, okay? 3 dB correspond to 2. If I sum 3 dB to a quantity, this means that I double the quantity. So, from 2, doubling 2, I get 4. So 4 dB correspond to 6 dB correspond to 4. 6 dB correspond to 4 is a natural demand. 6 dB are 3 plus 3. 3 is 2. Doubling 2, I get 6. Okay? Is it clear now? Please.
Can you repeat the constraint you said about the 40% is good?
The limit was 1 dB, okay? Here is 1.4. So this means that I have increased, I have above the limit by 40% of 1 dB. 40% of 1 is 0.4, no? So we have increased by 40%.
What was the reason choosing 40%?
There is no strict reason. This is well above the limit. As you can see here, we are about, the limit was 15 dB for the gain. And here we are assuming 7 dB.
Because any combination of these three.
There is not a strict rule. Okay, all the choices are good in the sense that you have to stay below the limit that has been reported. Then you can decide what is the best combination for your specific design. In the case of the test, obviously, whatever combination you choose, which are below the limit, is good. In this case, I consider this limit more reasonable than 2.5 dB as we obtained before. Because in this case, we can reduce strongly the gain of the amplifier, making more easy the realization of the amplifier, and probably also less expensive. This is the criteria I used for selecting this instead of 2.4 as before.
So we should have practical insight. For a real design, we should have practical
Yes,
insight.
the experience is what is most important from this point of view, but not only. Because typically when you realize a true design, you have a set of constraints also from the economical point of view. So you know what is your budget. And you have to assign the budget to the various elements. And then you have to maybe to reduce some, to increase some other, and so on, until you stay below the maximum target that has been assigned to your design. Okay? Other consideration? Okay, it's clear? Well, now we can move to the second part of this problem, which is less usual. Now we still have to do with a budget equation, but in this case, the budget equation refers to the nonlinear behavior of our front end. In practice, we have assigned a relationship between the maximum power, the sensitivity, and the IIP3 of the receiver, of the wall receiver. Okay? Our equation is this one, 3P max equal to S plus 60 plus 2 IIP3. This is our equation, okay? From this equation, it is immediate with the data given by the problem to obtain what is IIP3 of the overall receiver. In fact, here it is assigned P max. So we can write 3 times 0 equal S, which is minus 60 dBm, plus 60 plus 2 IIP3. Okay? What we get is then, here is 0, that IIP3 is given by minus 70 plus 60 means minus 10 divided to 5 dBm. This is then the IIP3 that must be presented by the receiver in order to fulfill the requirement. Note that 5 dBm means, as a natural unit, 3.16 milliwatt. In fact, all the computations in this case must be carried out in natural units, because we know that the overall intercept point of a cascade of blocks, either at input or at the output, must be evaluated in natural unit. In the case of our system, we have 3 blocks which has been specified. 3 blocks which are represented by, if we go back to our scheme, 3 blocks which are represented by the filter, the amplifier, and the mixer. So we have 3 blocks in cascade. Okay. The first block is linear because it's a filter. The IIP3 of this block is infinite because a linear system has an infinite IP3. Now we have to apply the formula for evaluating the input IIP3, the input intercept point, for a cascade of blocks. The formula is this one. Formula is this one. In the case of 3 blocks, we have this expression. But in our case, IIP31 is infinite, and then this term is 0. But observe that even if the term is 0, its contributes appears in the second block, the second term, because here we have G1, which is just the gain of the first block. So if you replace the parameter of each block, in our case, taking into account that the gain is the inverse of the attenuation, okay? We have that 1 divided IP3 total squared is equal to G1 is 1 divided AF, A0. 1 divided A0 divided IP3 of the low noise amplifier. Plus, here we have the product of G1 times G2. G2 is the gain of the low noise amplifier. And then we get G LNA divided A0, all this square, divided IP3 of mixer. And this is our equation for the cascade of blocks. But we can further replace some parameter here, because for the low noise amplifier, we have not, it's not used the IP3, it's used the IP3. The IP3 of the low noise amplifier, we know that is given by P1 dB plus delta, where delta is typically 10.16 dB, 10.64 dB in the case of a perfect third order nonlinearity. But for this reason, it is convenient to refer not to IIP3 here, but to IP3. And what is the relationship between the two? The relationship is trivial. The intercept point at the output is equal to the intercept point at the input multiplied the gain of the low noise amplifier. So here I can replace in this way and multiply and divide, for GLNA. Okay? The IIP3 is equal to the IP3 divided the gain. But this divided comes up, and then we can write here GLNA divided by 0. Okay, observe that the two terms are exactly the same in the two blocks. But the denominator is not the same, obviously. This is the IP3 of the low noise amplifier. This is the IIP3 of the mixer. At this point, we have to equate this equation to what we have obtained here. 1 divided 3.16 squared. Well, we know that our unknowns are represented by P1 dB and IIP3, which means IP3 low noise amplifier and IIP3 of the mixer. The other parameters, these ones, are known because GLNA and A0 have been determined before. GLNA has been selected to 10. And A0 is equal 1.26. 26. These are natural unites, and then I can replace this here, and I have an equation where there are two unknowns, IIP3 and IP3LNA. Well, now we have to assign one value and obtain the other from this equation. What is the criteria for assigning a value? We have to observe this one. Actually, in this expression, the value that we can assign to this or this must be larger than the value here, which is here, in order to satisfy this equation. So we need to assign an IP3 or an IIP3 which is larger than 5 dBm, because otherwise this relationship cannot be satisfied. For instance, we can assign an IP3 equal to IP3 LNA equal to 45 milliwatt, and we get, using this expression, an IP3 of the mixer equal to 30.07. These are natural unit, obviously, milliwatt. Which means, in this case, about 14.8 ppm. Note that all the computations here has been referred to milliwatt. It's not necessary to move to watt when we solve an equation. We can assume that all these parameters are expressed in milliwatt, and what we obtain is again in milliwatt. Okay? Well, please.
Can you repeat, please, why you choose AP3 over 45 millivolt?
Because we have sorry, just a moment, because maybe there could be an error here, but I have to be sure. Sorry, just a moment. I want to verify the computation reported here because there could be.
Sorry? Did you know this one? No. I don't know. Like in the middle of the question, I lost everything. You know. At the beginning, I was understanding, and then when he moved to the second question, then he started writing, and I lost it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The reason is this. This term squared means about 0.1. All this term squared means 0.1. This must be divided by GLNA times A0 divided A0 squared. So this is equal 1 divided IP3 LNA squared plus 1 divided IIP3 mixer squared. Now, I write here better. Okay? 0.1 is 1 divided IIP3 total squared. Then I take this term, which is the same for the two, and I divided 0.1 for this. And this must be equal the sum of the two inverse squared. Okay? This term is equal to 0.0016, which correspond to 1 divided 25 milliwatt, about. So what we have is that these two must be larger than 25 milliwatt. Is it clear now? In order to satisfy that the sum of the two must be equal to 0.0016. And so this is the choice. We have chosen IP3 45 and IIP3 30. As you can see, both of them are larger than 25. Because in order to satisfy this requirement, the two terms here and here must be lower than 25. They're larger than 25. In any case, even if you are not aware of this, you can try. You can try to put here a value, set obviously the correct results for this term, and then try to obtain the other one. If you don't assign properly the value, what you get here for the other one is a negative value. A negative value is unacceptable, so you can modify until it becomes positive. Okay?
Sorry, is IIP3 total is known or not?
IP3 is known.
IP3
It's been obtained here. This is the IP3 total.
Ah, okay, that's good.
It's given by this relationship. It was given by the problem. Okay? So I know what is IP3 total. I replace here IP3 total. I know these two terms, and then I get an equation where the two values for IP3 LNA and IIP3 of the mixer are related to each other. I can set one value and get the other one. But obviously, I have to set the value in a proper way. Otherwise, what I get is a negative value for the other.
If you choose the reverse, like for example, for the mixer 45 and for the LNA 30, it's also possible.
Yes, it's good. It's acceptable in the sense that what is important is that the sum of the two must be equal to this one. The combination of the two must give as a whole IP3 referring to the input 5 dBm. With this combination, as the two are exactly the same, as you can see, the numerator of the two is exactly the same. So, but you have to be aware that this is an IP3 referring to the input, and this one to the output. So when you replace the two, what appears is that this becomes the IP3 at the output of the LNA, and this figure becomes the IP3 at the output of the mixer. You must be aware of this. Okay? But in any case, you can exchange if you want. These are typical values that can be obtained very easily. Are not critical in the sense that it's referring to the cost of the device. Okay, so there is no problem in realizing such a value. Okay, there are some questions on this problem. Please.
You used from GLNA because 10 dB for calculation of
Yes. Yes.
But you choose GLNA 7 dB because
You're right. Yes. I used the 10 dB for. I'm not sure. Let me see what I used because I don't remember. Maybe you are right. No, I used the 10 dB for this computation. But you can try to see what happens. Is instead of 10, you put here 5. Try. Other question?
Why 0.1?
This one is 1 divided 3.16 squared.
Okay.
This is about 0.1. Okay? Other?
I had a question from the first part.
Yes.
I was asking,
Yes, sir, please.
We specified the noise figure of LNA as 2.13 because we had TLNA like 185 degrees. What's the correlation between them? I couldn't understand. How we choose that noise figure value? 2.13 dB. We choose for the LNA noise figure.
We have chosen for the LNA. We have chosen there are 3 parameters to determine. The first, the TSSB, TLNA, and GLNA. Okay? TLNA means noise figure. So what we did is to assign GLNA and TSSB and obtain TLNA.
Okay.
From TLNA we get an F.
How did you do it?
Sorry?
How did we get from T and noise figure?
Oh, you can try also in this way. You can assign also other combination. You can try with other combination. Assign an F and then TLNA and GLNA, for instance, and get TSSB. You can combine as you want. You have the equation, the budget equation. The budget equation must be satisfied. The way you satisfy the equation is absolutely up to you in the sense that you can decide what you can assign. Okay? There is no constraint from this point of view. What is important is the combination of the 3. And obviously, to get the most cheap, typically the less expensive combination that still satisfy your requirement. Okay? Okay, at this point, the other exercise just refers to the feed forward. So we have time, so I decided that we can make some examples of solutions for a very simple feed forward configuration in order to have a more quantitative feeling of the solution of the how the feed forward works. Okay, so the next exercise refers to a feed forward system. We have this schema. Okay, this is the scheme, very simple as you can see. I briefly explained the main both block. This is a coupler where we take a fraction of the input power, a very small fraction of the input power in this branch, while the direct coupling is practically 1. So we discard the effect of losses of attenuation from ear to ear. Then we have the main amplifier, the amplifier that must be linearized, which is characterized by a gain, GM, and by an IP3M. Then we have a second coupler, again characterized by a coupling in this direction of C2. This is an attenuator A1. This is the error amplifier. The error amplifier, as you know, has the task of this amplifier is to amplify the distortion extracted from the main amplifier and subtract to the output in order to get at the output the amplified signal without the distortion. Okay, these are the main blocks. As you can see, these are ideal nodes where we perform only the difference between the two signals. Here is plus and here is minus. So what this block implements is just the difference between these two inputs. Very easy, and the same in this point. Okay? Okay, we have assigned these values, G1 equal G2 equal 10 dB. This means that the ratio between the power here and the power here is minus 10 dB. The power extracted in this direction is 1/10 of the power entering this block. Then we know that the gain of the main amplifier is 50 dB. And the IP3 of the main amplifier is 55 dBm. Okay. Assume initially the error amplifier ideal ideal. Then in this initial assumption, this is infinite. Evaluate of the values of A1 and GE in order to have both loops balanced and no distortion at output. Okay? So we have to apply the balance condition to this block and this block, to this loop and this loop. This is the condition in order to proper working for the ideal working of the feed-forward. So we start with the first block. The loop equations, the balance equation has been already proposed during the lesson, but obtain again these equations in order to have clear how the solution can be obtained. We have to arrive in this point and this point with the same signal, because the first loop must remove in this, at the input of the error amplifier, must remove the signal. Let's suppose that the signal is composed by two tones, okay? So we enter with two tones here. At the output of the main amplifier, we have the two tones plus the distortion, okay? And what we want to get in the end is again the two tone without the distortion. Well, the task of the first loop is to remove in this point the two tones and leave only the distortion tone. So here, what we want to see is the two tones cancelled, and only the two tones representing the distortion produced by the main amplifier present. In order to obtain this result, we need that this branch and this branch must introduce the same gain or attenuation. So we start here. Going in this direction, we have 0 here, because the couplers present 0 dB in the direct output. So 0 plus the gain of the main amplifier, GM. Here we have to move in this direction. This is C2, so minus C2. Then we have minus A1. This is an attenuator. And this is what arrives here. In this direction instead, what arrives is only minus C1. So when we move from here and arrive here, we arrive to minus C1. At this point, we can obtain A1. A1 is equal to Gm minus C2 plus C1. This is 55. If you replace 10 and 10, what we get is in the end, Gm is 50 dB, sorry. This is 50. This is 10 and 10, and then we get in the end 50. The gain, the attenuation A1 must be equal to 50 dB. In this way, we remove completely the signal, and what we get in this point is only the distortion. Second loop, we repeat the same computation. We move from here and arrive here, here, and we move from here and arrive here. So, in this direction, we have immediate 0 equal to, here we have minus A1, this is 0, plus GA. Sorry, was wrong. Actually, we have, in order to arrive here, we have plus minus C2 minus A1. So we have minus C1, C2, sorry, minus A1 plus GE. I repeat, from here, from this point to this point, there is minus C2. Then from this point to this point, minus A1. From this point to here, we have GE. So the equation is this one. And then GE must be equal to C2 plus A1, equal to 60 dB. Okay? So we have, in this way, the nominal balancing conditions. These are the conditions that allow to remove completely the signal at the input of the error amplifier and to remove completely the distortion at the output of the feed-forward. Obviously, this is an ideal condition. In the reality, the error amplifier is not the ideal, but it is characterized by a linearity level, particular by 93. And so let's see what is the second question for our problem. Please.
I don't understand how we create the loops. Why there is a 0, why there is a minus C2.
Okay, do you have understood what are the blocks, what represent these blocks?
Yes.
This is a coupler. I explained last time what is a coupler. It allows to extract a fraction of the input power and present it to this port. While at this port we have practically the same power the input. So when I move from here to here, I attenuate the signal by C1. Okay? So when I move from this point and I have here, the signal P in has been reduced by C1, minus C1. And then here I have P1, P in minus C1. Instead, from this direction, I get P in minus 0, because this is 0. The attenuation in this direction is 0. Then, plus the gain of the amplifier. So plus GM. Again, an attenuation here, because I move from this point to this point, minus C2. This is another attenuation, minus A1, and I arrive in this, in the comparison block. If I want that the loop is balanced, the two signals arriving at this comparison block must be equal. And what to obtain is just this equation. It's more clear now or not?
Is the 0 that's
0 is the attenuation in this direction. When a block doesn't attenuate, it means that the input to output is equal to 1. And what is 1 in dB? 0. Okay? Other comments or clarifications? No. Then move to the second question. Assuming that, first of all, assume that we have a two-tone signal at the input and evaluate in the previous condition, that is when the blocks are perfectly balanced, the mean power at the output of the error amplifier, that is here, when the carrier to intermodulation of the main amplifier is equal to 30 dB at the output of the main amplifier. Well, now, for the moment, we are still assuming the error amplifier ideal. So, what is asked here is then, now we have the signal having this form. We know that the carrier to intermodulation in this point is given and is equal to 30 dB. The question is, what is the mean power at the output of the error amplifier when we are in this condition? It is given that carrier to intermodulation of the main amplifier is given by 30 dB. The question is, what is the power, the mean power at the error amplifier output? Now, let's see in what way we can solve this problem. First of all, let's see what is the power at the output of the main amplifier. In order to obtain this, what we are asked to, we need to know what is the power of the signal and the power of the distortion at the output of the main amplifier. So, we know that the carrier to intermodulation in the two-tone test is equal to 2 IP3 of the main amplifier, obviously, minus 2 times the power per tone. We assume that here, at the output of the main amplifier, each line has a power P0. Then we know this one, because it's assigned to be 30 dB. We know what is the IP3 of the main. It was given in the problem. We know that this is a 55 dBm. Is here. So we can evaluate what is P0. It is the power per tone. The power per tone at the output of the main amplifier is given by 40 dBm. But at this point, we know also what is the power in the intermodulation line. What is the power in each intermodulation line? Sorry?
You have an equation multiplied by the power.
There is a very trivial way to. Let's observe what are the parameters we know.
Carrier.
This is just the difference in dB between the main line and this line. So if you know that P0 is 40 dB, the power in the intermodulation term is 40 minus 30. That is 10 dBm. This is the power in each intermodulation line. Now, this means also that once we are at the input of the signal, we have only the two intermodulation lines removed. Okay? So, we have also to observe that the power at the output of the error amplifier is just the power at the output of the feed-forward. What means that? This means that at the output of the error amplifier, we have to provide the power just in the intermodulation line in order to remove them. This means that here we have the two intermodulation lines with the same power that are here, which are here. So at the output of the error amplifier, we have for each line the same power in the intermodulation line here, which is 10 dBm. This is the power in each intermodulation line. This is the power at this point. The average power, problem asking for the average power. What is the average power? If you know that the power in each line is 10 dBm, the average power will be twice, and then what is the number in dBm? Sorry? When we double in natural unite, what means that? That we have to increase by 3 dB. So we have here 10 in each line, and then the average power at the output of the error amplifier will be 13 dBm. Okay? And this is the answer at the output. If you want to know the power at the input, what we have to do is to divide that number by the gain. The gain of the error amplifier has been obtained before and was 60 dB. This means that the average power at the input of the error amplifier is 13 minus 60. Okay? You can also verify this point just because the two loops are just balanced. That this is the value that we get just after this subtraction. What we get here is a signal with a power of 13 minus 60 dBm. It's a consequence of the balancing of the two loops. If you evaluate what is the power here and the distortion, and what is the overall attenuation in this direction, you get exactly the same result. In fact, C2 is equal to 10 dBm, and A1 is equal to 50 dBm, 50 dB. So 50 plus 10 is 60, and this means that the signal here is 60 dB lower than here, just as we have obtained from this equation. Okay? All these computations have been carried out assuming that the blocks are ideal. That is, the error amplifier is perfectly linear. But in the reality, as I said before, we are not in this condition. So the last question, just want to know what happens when the error amplifier is not ideal. Let's see what asks. The third question. Evaluate the IP3 of the error amplifier which is not ideal, determining the carrier to intermodulation at the output of the feed-forward, so just in this point here, equal to 50 dB. When the carrier to intermodulation of the main amplifier is equal to 30 dB, as we said before. It is also asked to draw the shape of the spectrum at the output of the feed-forward and of the main end of the error amplifier, here and here. Okay? We have seen that in the ideal case, at the output of the feed-forward, we get this spectrum. At the output of the error amplifier, in the ideal case, we get nothing here, and we get here and here 2 lines, which represent the distortion which has been removed. So this is the output of the error amplifier. This is the output of the feed-forward in the ideal case. Now, let's start immediately with draw the spectrum in the non-ideal case. What happens in the non-ideal case? The error amplifier is not linear. So, when he amplifies signal with two tones, as the one here shown, at the output of the error amplifier will appear also the intermodulation. But the intermodulation is a different signal with respect to the original one. We can observe, in fact, that this is the main signal of the error amplifier in the ideal case, where this distance is 3 delta. Then the intermodulation that is produced in this case will have 2 lines, one here and one here, which is 3 delta and 3 delta. Okay? Well, what happens at the output of the feed-forward? At the output of the feed-forward, the second loop will remove the main distortion, but not this one. This is the one produced by the error amplifier, and this will be not removed. It is removed only the one produced by the main amplifier. So, what happens here? The 2 main lines will remain, they are amplified at the output. The distortion of the main amplifier is removed, but here and here will remain the distortion produced by the error amplifier. And what we want to get is that this ratio must be 50 dB. Okay? This is our requirement. As you can see, this distortion is different from the one produced by the main amplifier because it's much wider, it's much distant from the two lines. Well, what we can do? We can immediately apply the results we have derived the last time during the lesson. We have seen that when the two loops are perfectly balanced, but the error amplifier is not ideal, the relationship between the carrier intermodulation of the feed-forward and the other two, that is the carrier intermodulation of the main amplifier and the error amplifier, is simply this one. C2E of main amplifier plus C2E of error amplifier. Then, here we have 50 equal to carrier to intermodulation of the main amplifier is 30. This means that from this equation, that the carrier to intermodulation of the error amplifier must be 20 dB. Very easy. Now we can evaluate what is the IP3 of the error amplifier. This is the carrier to intermodulation of the error amplifier. But what is the IP3? Obviously, in order to select the device, we have to know what is the IP3 of our device. What we can do is to apply one of the formula we are available, the ones we have used before, just relating this one to the carrier to intermodulation. In this formula, you see that we have the carrier to intermodulation related to the IP3 and to P0. What is P0 in the case of the error amplifier? What is the P0? That is the power per line that we need to have the output of the error amplifier. The power of what? We know this power. What is this power? It is the power of the main signal at the error amplifier output. It is of these two signals. And what is this power in this scheme?
Power of the intermodulation divided.
Of the main amplifier. The power of the intermodulation of the main amplifier is the power that arriving here can sell the power of the intermodulation of the main amplifier. Then the power in each line here is just the power of intermodulation of the main amplifier. Okay? So we know this. We know carrier to intermodulation, and we can derive IP3 of the error amplifier. So the power at the output of the error amplifier is equal to IM3 intermodulation of the main amplifier, which is equal to, we have seen before, 10 dB. Is this one. This is the power intermodulation of the main line, or in each main line, 10 dB. Then, IP3 of the error amplifier will be carrier to intermodulation of the error amplifier divided 2 plus P O of error amplifier, always in dBm, and we get, this is 20, is this one, 20 divided to 10, this is 10 as we have seen before, and then also the IP3 is 20 dBm. You must be well aware when you study such a scheme, but not only in this case, in whatever scheme you are observing or studying, and reflect on what means each power level, each signal level, and so on. In this case, we have the condition at the output that requires the power in the distortion produced by the main amplifier is removed, which determines the fact that these two signals must have the same power level in the distortion. But, just to complicate the situation, if here I have not an ideal node, but I have something more real, for instance a coupler. See, if I have here a coupler, where there is a coupling here equal to C3, the power in this point is 10 dB lower than the power here. And this means that the power that must provide the error amplifier must be C3 dB larger than the power in the intermodulation line. Just to take into account of this reduction effect. Okay? So, you have always to consider the real case you have to deal with. Because if the problem, for instance, include such a coupler, the equation we have derived here are not valid. You have to take into account of the effect of this coupler, also the balancing condition.
Why the coupler is conditioned that way? Why there is
Sorry, you are right. It's not in this way. In this way, this is the coupler in this condition. This is in this direction. It is in this direction. The coupling is this. This is in here. This signal arrives at the output, and this signal is directed in this direction. So the signal arriving in this direction is 10 dB lower than the signal at the output. So if you want that we can sell the power in this point, the power provided from here must be C3 dB larger than the power arriving here. Okay? Other consideration?
I couldn't understand that formula.
What formula?
CI.
This one, huh? I have derived last time. If you look at the slides, it is demonstrated. I don't want to derive again. Look at the slide and it is demonstrated. Okay, other comments? Okay, we stop for 10 minutes.